Chapter 10, Front Derailleur Cable Tension. Now we're going to look at the proper adjustment of the front derailleur cable tension. We will discuss turning in the barrel adjuster, removing slack in the cable, putting the bike in the right gear combinations, adjusting the cable tension to make the chain shift. None of this will have anything to do with the limit screws. In preparation for tensioning the front derailleur cable, I'm going to turn the adjusting barrel in clockwise and then out about a quarter of a turn. There's quite a lot of slack in my front derailleur cable, which I want to get out. I go to the binder bolt on the front derailleur. This is my course adjustment. Open that with a 5mm wrench and just pull some of that slack out of the cable and then retighten the binder bolt. So now I've removed that excess slack that I just saw in my front derailleur cable. Now all I have to do is to make my front derailleur work as well using the shifter as I can make it work by pulling and releasing the cable. So I'm going to go to the front shifter and try to shift into the big chain ring and see what happens. Pedal and shift. Okay, the chain shifted into the big chain ring, but you hear a rubbing. The rubbing is not an issue of the setting of the limit screw, because if I pull on the cable, you see the derailleur cage moves out far enough to stop the rubbing. So what I need is a little bit more cable tension. A good technique before you try to add tension to the front derailleur cable is to release the cable back into the released position. That allows the cable to once again become slack, and it'll be easier to turn out the barrel adjuster. And I'm going to add a little bit of tension to the front derailleur cable by turning the barrel adjuster out. It's hard to know how much to turn it out, but I'm going to try about a half a turn or so, and we'll see if that's enough. Okay, with a little more tension on the cable, let's try the same shift again. And we have just a hair more rubbing, so I'm going to release it again, add just a little bit more tension, and try it again. There we go. Now our chain is quiet in the big chain ring. So using the shifter this time instead of the cable, back into the small chain ring, right into the big one. The small, the big, the small, and the big. Notice how crisply that is shifting. Partly that's because we have the cable tension correct and we have the limit screw correct, but don't underestimate the benefit we got from getting the derailleur a little bit lower and setting the angle perfectly as well. Now if you happen to have a triple chain ring, you're going to set the limit screws exactly the same way, and then set your cable tension to make sure that you can not only shift from the small chain ring to the middle one, but when you release the cable, the chain moves back into the small chain ring. And since you're working with your inner gears in the front chain ring, make sure that your cassette is correspondingly set so that I have the chain in the inner cog. Then of course I need to make sure that my chain will also shift from the middle chain ring to the big one, and from the big one back to the middle chain ring. To check that, I recommend you have your cassette in the smallest cog. There's a pretty high likelihood that the cable tension that you've already set will be sufficient to move the chain back and forth between the middle chain ring and the big chain ring. However, it's possible that when you're in the outer gear combination, the small cog in the back and the big chain ring in the front, that you'll get a little bit of rubbing on the big chain ring from the nose of the front derailleur outer plate. If that happens, just add a little bit more cable tension to stop the rubbing.